Hello there everyone and welcome back to my channel. Ember, I'm going to lose my mind.
Mr. Backwards.
This is going to be my first video where I'm switching up my content, so if you're new here, hi. My name is Ben Burnell. I'm a professional actor living in Vancouver and I like creepy, gross, and mysterious things. My content used to be me talking about acting and my experience in film school, but I graduated from film school. There's my diploma.
Wow.
And also, I didn't really enjoy making YouTube content on that subject alone anymore. I'll link my video down below where I actually go more in depth of why I didn't enjoy talking about it and why I'm switching my content and what it's going to be switching to, but I don't want to be talking about that forever, so let's get on to the new stuff. So today, as the title above says, I'm going to be talking about Tarrare the Cannibal. So for those of you who don't know, Tarrare, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I'm just going to go with Tarrare. So Tarrare has become a bit of a meme on certain social media sites. It's a bit of a smaller meme, so if you haven't heard of it, it's cool. But I saw this particular meme come up on Tumblr of all places. And there were also some other really good memes on the subject that I was like, okay, I need to figure out what this is about, because it was just so fascinating and just bizarre. So I went and I did my research. And boy, so I thought maybe it was about some influencer who had posted some stupid video, as you know influencers tend to do, and that people on the internet were just roasting them. I was kind of right. So let me break this down for you as best as I can.
He's a monster.
Born in 1772, Tarrare was a French showman and soldier who had an insatiable appetite. Tarrare also had an unusually large mouth and stomach to further fuel his need to eat anything and everything. And I mean anything and
Everything.
that title is not clickbait. I'm going to give you the beginning to end of this particular story. So let's start at the beginning. The only problem is people aren't exactly sure where the beginning is. Though we know he was born in 1772, there isn't an actual date of birth for Tarrare. And on top of that, Tarrare might not even be his actual name. Tarrare may have just been his show name. Tarrare may have, oh my god. Tarrare may have just been his show name or just a nickname, so that might have not even been his real first name, let alone knowing his last name. So we might not know his first or last name. He's just Tarrare, born in 1772 France. So as a child, Tarrare's massive appetite wasn't even really noticed or created a particular issue, but it eventually grew to be so massive that his parents could not financially fund his constant eating. As the legend goes, as a child, Tarrare was actually able to eat his own body weight in cow meat in a single 24-hour period. And this was 18th century France. Times were tough, so Tarrare's parents eventually actually had to kick him out of the family home as a teenager because they could not deal with the financial burden of having to feed this constantly eating child. So after he was kicked out of the family home, Tarrare traveled around France, A, begging for food, and B, apparently traveling with a band of thieves and prostitutes for a number of years, but there's not a whole lot known about his life at that time, so I'm not going to go too in depth about that just because there's not really anything to go into. Eventually though, Tarrare became an entertainer for a traveling showman, putting his talent to use. So as the opening act for this traveling show, Tarrare would eat crazy things and crazy amounts of things as well. So Ripley's Believe It or Not on their website described Tarrare as looking like this, and I quote, "A large lipless mouth stretched wide beyond human regularity and filled with stained teeth." That sounds like a creepypasta creature, but this was a whole ass dude. So as the opening act for this show, Tarrare would eat corks, rocks and stones, entire baskets of apples, and live animals. Apparently his favorite was snakes. I'm more of a grilled chicken boy myself, but hey. According to the written statement of someone I could only find by the name of Lorenz, Tarrare would eat live cats and dogs during his performances, and Lorenz described seeing one of these performances as this. I quote you not, "He seized a live cat with his teeth, eventrated, or disemboweled it, sucked its blood, and ate it, leaving the bare skeleton only. He also ate dogs in the same manner. On one occasion, it was said he swallowed a live eel without chewing it." Okay, so remember what I told you his face looked like? You know, inhumanly large mouth with stained teeth and no lips. Yeah, that. Here's how messed up my boy's body was. So despite his massive appetite, Tarrare was actually quite small in stature. At the age of 17, he didn't even weigh 100 pounds yet. But that's when his stomach was empty. And when his stomach was empty, the skin around his stomach and kind of his whole torso area would hang so loosely He could wrap his own skin around himself like a belt made of his own skin. And when his stomach wasn't empty, he would stuff himself so full his skin would distend like a balloon, or like that of a woman in her 3rd trimester of pregnancy. More on his lovely face. Like the skin on his stomach and kind of his whole torso area, the skin on his cheeks would hang so low and were so wrinkled that they looked like premature jowls. So A, his mouth was very unusually wide beyond human regularity, and B, his cheeks were extremely stretchy. So sit down for this one. Apparently, Tarrare was able to stuff 12 eggs in his mouth at one time. 12!
12!
12!
That's the number of the day!
But wait, there's more.
This is not okay.
Tarrare was reportedly hot to the touch, and he would sweat so profusely that his body odor was just out of control. And it was reported in a couple of written testaments actually that he stunk like sewer water. Not just a touch of BO, okay? It was reported that he stunk, and I, again, quote, because I would hate to get a word of this wrong because it's so great. He stunk to such a degree that he could not be endured within a distance of 20 paces. And that was a written quote by an 18th century French military surgeon, so, I believe him. So, it gets worse.
This needs to stop now.
After he ate, Tarrare's eyes and his cheeks would go red and bloodshot, and he would become very lethargic and have terrible indigestion. He would belch loudly, and his jaws would make, quote, swallowing motions, which is terrifying. His constant foul odor would get even worse after he ate, and apparently, I'm not joking, apparently a visible stinky vapor would rise off of him. Yeah, like a Looney Tunes cartoon or some shit.
The showers away, and if I kiss you in the garden, in the moonlight, will you bother me?
Yeah, both French. Coincidence? I think no. Tarrare also had chronic diarrhea, which, and again, I quote, was fetid beyond all conception. These people had so much to say about my boy, and it's also descriptive. I kinda love it. So after some time being the opening act for this traveling sideshow, you know, eating dozen eggs, eating live animals, eating stones, eating cars, yeah, Tarrare was over it. So he moved to France, where he became a solo street performer, and apparently he was decently successful. However, that all kind of came to a stop when during one of his performances, Tarrare collapsed, and he was rushed to a nearby hospital, where it was found he had an intestinal obstruction. Can't imagine why.
But essentially, if you have an obstruction, the food that we eat will pile up, of course.
Tarrare was successfully treated with powerful laxatives. Thank the Lord. Grateful to be alive, Tarrare offered to show his appreciation by showing off his talent by eating the surgeon's pocket watch. To which the surgeon replied that if Tarrare did, he would cut him open and retrieve it from his stomach. Tarrare did not eat the surgeon's pocket watch. The next stage in Tarrare's life takes an even wilder turn when he joins the French military. It was the outbreak of the War of the First Coalition, and Tarrare joined the French Revolution Army. Immediately, Tarrare's appetite became a problem. Tarrare was given quadruple rations. That's 4 times the normal amount, and even though he was eating enough to feed 4 other regular-sized burly soldiers, Tarrare would do other soldiers' jobs for them, just in exchange for getting their rations. So even when his quadruple rations wouldn't satisfy him, and Tarrare would go and do other tasks for soldiers to get even more rations, and that still didn't satisfy him, Tarrare would resort to digging through the garbages and the dunghills to find anything edible. Dunghills are exactly what they sound like, by the way. During his time in the military, Tarrare became very sick, and he was hospitalized. And yeah, shockingly enough, his appetite became a problem there too. So Tarrare would eat more than a regular patient. Tarrare would go and steal fruit from other patients, and when even that didn't satisfy him, Tarrare resorted to eating the hospital's rations of bandages. This, understandably, caught the attention of military doctors. A military surgeon at the hospital, Dr. Corville, was horrified when he witnessed Tarrare eat a live cat. That's a justified reaction. All psychological testing at the time showed that Tarrare was completely sane, if a little apathetic. Hey, everybody's got something. Another military doctor, Dr. Percy, also took an interest in Tarrare's condition, despite all the red flags. So as one test of Tarrare's eating capabilities, Dr. Percy and Dr. Corville had a meal meant for 15 prepared. And apparently at the hospital, normally the staff would have to hold Tarrare back until all the other patients could eat a decent amount because Tarrare would just go hog wild and eat everything. However, in this instance, Dr. Percy and Dr. Corville actually let Tarrare go just to see how much he could eat. He ate all of it. A meal meant for 15. Tarrare ate all of it and then promptly fell asleep. I didn't make that up. He did that. Sure. When I do it, I ruin Thanksgiving and I'm a family embarrassment. But when Tarrare does it, it's a medical miracle. No, seriously, when I was 18, I ate so much at Christmas dinner, I threw up. Diving right in, no hesitation or apparent morals, Percy and Corville tested Tarrare further by seeing him consume some more live animals. An entire eel. What is up with the eels? Lizards, puppies. You're fucked up for that one. Snakes, his favorite, and a live cat which he drank the blood of and consumed in classic Tarrare fashion. Dr. Percy noted that he only regurgitated the skin and fur. Quote, like an owl. Thanks for the details, Doc. Let me just drop this real quick quote from Dr. Baron Percy here just to further convince you that this was not a man. This was something else. The dogs and cats fled in terror at his aspect, as if they had anticipated the kind of fate he was preparing for them.
Spiders flee before it.
Hello? I'm not sure if the doctors supervising Tarrare sought out weaponizing his talent or if he just caught the notice of a general, but noticed he was. General Alexander du Beauharnais, I'm just gonna call him General Alexander because that's hard, had an idea on how to use Tarrare's condition for military use. So as a test, General Alexander had Tarrare swallow a wooden box with a paper note inside. Tarrare passed the box the next day with the paper inside still intact and legible. Apparently, as a gift for this accomplished mission, Tarrare was generously gifted a wheelbarrow full of 30 pounds worth of raw bull organs, which Tarrare graciously ate in front of an ensemble of horrified generals. Based on the test, the wooden box thing, not the wheelbarrow thing, Tarrare was given a top secret mission. Between the doctors, Percy and Corville and General Alexander, they worked out a plan to use Tarrare as a military courier. So basically, he would be carrying secret military missions in his stomach across the French borders because if he was caught, it wouldn't be found immediately. Probably. With this plan in mind, Tarrare officially became a spy for the Army of the Rhine. Though he was convinced Tarrare had the physical capabilities to carry out this mission, General Alexander wasn't so sure about his mental capabilities, so he wasn't quite ready to trust him with a huge mission right away. As his first mission being the human envelope, basically, Tarrare was to carry a mission to a French colonel who had been imprisoned by the Prussians near Neustadt. Tarrare was told that this message was top secret and of great military significance. Under the cover of night, Tarrare crossed into enemy lines disguised as a German peasant. Now, there are a few things wrong with this plan. First of all, if a guy running around bloated like a pregnant woman or with miles of sagging skin didn't attract attention, maybe him digging through garbages and dunghills and eating live animals might have attracted some attention. If he didn't, okay, let's say he held himself back. That didn't happen. Tarrare didn't speak a word of German. Oh, my poor boy. Because he didn't speak a word of German, he was quickly noticed by the local Prussians who alerted the authorities, and Tarrare was imprisoned rather quickly. A strip search of his person, of course, turned up nothing, and Tarrare was imprisoned for 24 hours and tortured, and after that he gave up his mission. He was then chained to a latrine, and 30 hours after it had been initially consumed, the secret message passed through the French spy. The top secret message of military significance was actually just a handwritten note from General Alexander to the colonel saying, hey, if you get this, let me know. And Tarrare's Prussian captors were so mad about this that they had Tarrare taken to the gallows and a noose placed around his neck. However, his captors took pity on him, and after he was again beaten severely, he was let go near French lines. I would feel bad for him if I didn't know about all that stuff he did to the cats. You're fucked up for that, Tarrare. Understandably traumatized by this experience, where's all that apathy now, Tarrare? Tarrare was once again placed under the care of Dr. Percy. Tarrare refused to return to military duty after what he experienced, and he was desperate for military doctors to find a cure for his voracious appetite. So once again, Dr. Percy, I don't actually know what happened to Dr. Corville. I guess after the whole thing, he was just like, but once again, Tarrare found himself being Dr. Percy's test subject. And to his credit, Dr. Percy really did try everything he could for their time to cure Tarrare of his appetite. So Dr. Percy fed Tarrare laudanum, tobacco pills, wine vinegar, a diet of soft-boiled eggs, and every medicine he could think of, but there was no cure for Tarrare's appetite. If anything, he got hungrier. While he was not being tested, Tarrare would wander the streets and fight stray dogs for the discards of slaughterhouses. And when he was in the hospital, Tarrare would go around and drink the blood of other patients, as bloodletting was a common practice during this time. On multiple occasions during this time, Tarrare was caught by hospital staff in the morgue eating dead bodies. Huh? During this time, a 14-month toddler who was staying at the hospital went missing and was never found. Though it was never proven, the hospital staff were certain that Tarrare had eaten this toddler, and Dr. Percy had to chase away his former patient, and he was never allowed back on the hospital premises. 4 years later, in 1798, Dr. Percy was contacted by a man named M. Tessier of Versailles Hospital that a patient at their hospital wanted to talk to Dr. Percy. It was Tarrare on his deathbed. This would be Dr. Percy's last chance to see his former patient alive. When he arrived, Tarrare told Dr. Percy that he had swallowed a golden fork 2 years prior and that he believed it was lodged inside him somewhere, probably because of what happened a few years before with his intestinal obstruction. Unfortunately, this time laxatives was not the answer. Tarrare was actually suffering from the last stages of tuberculosis, and a month after Dr. Percy arrived, Tarrare died at the age of approximately 26. After he passed, apparently all the doctors on the premises refused to do the autopsy. M. Tessier, the guy who had relayed Tarrare's message to Dr. Percy, was the only guy who was curious enough to even dare trying to dissect this dude. Apparently, Tarrare's corpse began to rot unusually quick. The very first thing they noticed during his autopsy was that Tarrare had a massive esophagus, which was just another thing that allowed him to eat such vast quantities of food. In fact, his esophagus was so large that they were able to look into his open mouth and see directly into his stomach, which was lined with stomach ulcers. This is a quote from one of the doctors who was present at the autopsy. It's a doozy. The entrails were putrefied, confounded together, and immersed in pus. The liver was excessively large, void of consistence, and in a putrescent state. The gallbladder was of considerable magnitude. The stomach, in a lax state, and having ulcerated patches dispersed about it, covered almost the whole of the abdominal region. Another report says that his jaw could drop so wide that, quote, a cylinder of a foot in circumference could be introduced without touching the palate. So just to show you just how big that is, I have a tape measure here, and as you can see, it's on 12 inches, a foot. And that's bigger than my arm. I could have put my arm down my boy's throat, like, and it wouldn't touch his mouth, like. Tarrare. The golden fork that Tarrare told Dr. Percy he had swallowed was never recovered during the autopsy, so if he did swallow it, and I'm inclined to believe that he did, it was completely digested. Tarrare's autopsy was actually stopped halfway through because if he stank in life, he was 10 times worse in death. Even Dr. Percy gave up on the medical mystery he'd spent years researching. He had enough, he tapped out. Because of the times and because of his abandoned autopsy, doctors never figured out what Tarrare's condition was. To this day, we still don't know why he needed to eat so much and why his entire body was adapted to just eating. Given that at the time, if whatever was wrong with you couldn't be cured with leeches, it probably meant you were possessed. Is that really a shock? So what are the modern theories?
Tells you all of her.
Dr. Don Moore, a chiropractor certified in science-based nutrition and owner and operator of Synergy Pro Wellness, has given his take on the case. So this is a quote from Dr. Don Moore. It can be broken down by category. He didn't suffer from psychosis, so he was completely aware and cognitive, but that doesn't rule out hyperactivity of hormones and dysfunction of components in the brain. His sensor that would let him know if he was full was damaged. If he underwent a brain surgery, he would have probably been identified as having an enlarged hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is what regulates a body's temperature and what gives a sensation of hunger. Remember that along with his famous hunger, Tarrare was always very hot to the touch and excessively sweaty, so that theory does make sense. Dr. Moore has also given his opinion on why the human embodiment of gluttony never seemed to weigh over 100 pounds. So remember how Tarrare liked to eat raw meat? Remember the wheelbarrow, the live animals, remember the eels? Dr. Moore says because of that habit, he most likely had a parasite as well. Things just keeps getting worse for Tarrare, doesn't it? Along with this quote from Dr. Don Moore, the fact that he was of normal size means something else is being nourished, and the fact that he was constantly hungry leans toward him feeding a secondary organism, a parasite like a hookworm or a roundworm perhaps. So in super fast, simple terms, Tarrare might have had a parasite inside him that every time he ate, the parasite was just eating everything he ate, so he was never getting any nourishment, so he was always hungry and never gaining weight because he was never getting any nourishment. There are other theories out there that are just as plausible too, but even if they had performed a full autopsy, we probably would never know exactly what was up with Tarrare. Our understanding of medicine and the human body has changed so much since the 18th century that even when we do have a very full, in-depth autopsy, it's probably not 100% accurate to what we know today. Some of these theories include hyperthyroidism, which would again explain his hunger and his sweatiness. Another theory is Prader-Willi syndrome, which is characterized by an excessive appetite and the need for people who suffer from this to seek out things that are even inedible to try and satiate this hunger, which Tarrare also did. Even something as simple as iron deficiency could explain Tarrare's polyphagia, and polyphagia is the medical term for excessive hunger, but most people who suffer from it do not suffer quite like Tarrare. So there you have it. That's as much as I could find on the legendary Tarrare. Again, because we don't know his exact date of birth or even possibly his real name, it's really hard to say exactly what went down in his life with any certainty. I mean, in the 18th century, you could have someone's full name, their date of birth, their blood type, the horoscope sign, and you still would probably have huge gaps missing in this person's life, so we're never gonna know about those lost years of Tarrare. Alright, so thank you so much for watching. Again, this is a very different video from what I'm used to making, so I'm going to be adjusting things as I go, but I would like to continue these kind of videos because I just find them so interesting. Hopefully you guys find them interesting too, so I might make a series just based on things like this, medical mystery type things. So if you know of any particular medical mystery cases that you would like me to cover, please put them down in the comments below and I'll read up on them and I might make a video on it. Just because I have to, I'm going to plug my Instagram and my Twitter. Both are under my name, Ben Burnell. It's with a Y, not a U. So if you'd like to see what kind of a person I am other than Tarrare's #1 fan, please follow me there. So again, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you did enjoy it or found it interesting at the very least, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Mr. Backwards, don't you know?